It began just after sunrise, when the fog still hung low over the quiet village and the dirt paths were damp from the night air. When an unusual sound broke the stillness, a sharp, relentless barking that rose and fell with an urgency that made the few people already awake. Pause mid-step, it was the playful bark of a dog chasing a bird, or the cautious bark warning away a stranger. It was something raw, something that carried strain, and when a pair of farmers followed the sound, they found him. A German shepherd, lean but strong, paws already caked in soil, head bent so low his ears brushed the earth. Digging furiously at a spot by the edge of a thicket where the ground was packed hard as if it had been trodden down. Recently, his breathing was ragged, his fur flecked with dust, but his focus never wavered. When they called to him, he ignored them. When they approached, he paused only to give them a single glance before shoving his paws deeper into the dirt. One of the farmers, an older man named Ragov, tried to lead him away, offering water from a tin cup, and for a moment the dog followed, drinking greedily. But the instant the cup was lowered, he sprinted back to the same patch of earth and resumed digging, his claws scraping against stubborn roots, sending tiny clumps of dirt flying into the air. By now, a few more villagers had gathered, murmuring in confusion, wondering what on earth could keep the animal so fixated. Someone suggested maybe it was a buried bone, another thought perhaps a trapped rabbit, but when they really watched him, they saw it. The way his ears flicked every few seconds, as if picking up a sound no one else could hear the way. He would pause mid-dig to press his nose deep into the soil, inhaling sharply before resuming with renewed force. The group debated whether to help, some wary of getting too close, others unsure if disturbing the spot was wise. But Ragov, who had kept dogs all his life, felt something in his chest tightened, an instinct that told him whatever this shepherd had found was urgent. So he fetched a worn wooden-handled shovel from his shed and knelt beside the dog, easing it into the soil just inches from where the claws had been working. The shepherd stepped aside only enough to let him work, hovering close, eyes fixed on the widening hole. As each layer came away, the air grew still, the muffled thud of the shovel against earth, the only sound aside from the dog. As heavy breathing, then Ragov's blade struck something softer than soil. He stopped, leaning closer, brushing away dirt with his hand. At first it was just a tangle of fabric, frayed and coated in dust, but then it shifted slightly, almost imperceptibly, and a collective gasp rose from the small crowd. Ragov froze, his eyes darting to the shepherd, who whined softly, tail low, then back to the bundle, which was now giving off a faint. A sound so thin and weak you might mistake it for the wind in the grass. But it was not the wind, it was the cry of life. Buried beneath the earth, the villagers fell silent as Ragov worked faster, his hands trembling as he cleared away more soil until the outline of a tiny body emerged, no bigger than his forearm.
At it.
Covered in matted fur and shaking violently, a puppy. Alive but barely, its eyes half closed. Its breathing shallow, and as they pulled it free, the shepherd moved in instantly, licking its face, nudging it gently toward Ragov's lap. But there was no pause. The dog returned to the hole and began digging again, as if to say there was more, and indeed there was. Within minutes, another small shape appeared, pressed against the first. Then a third, each one shivering, coated in dust, clinging to each other for warmth. The realization hit them all at once. These puppies had been buried here deliberately, left to die out of sight. And this shepherd had either witnessed it or stumbled upon the scene and refused to abandon them. Working until his paws bled to make sure someone came, the villagers now moved to action. Fetched blankets, bowls of water, anything to help. 2 young men carried the puppies to the shade, while a woman began checking them for injuries. The shepherd paced back and forth between them, licking each one in turn, whining whenever one whimpered. Ragov couldn't take his eyes off the dog, wondering what story lay behind those dark, alert eyes the rest of the day. It became a blur of care, washing the dust from tiny coats, coaxing them to drink drops of water, feeding them bits of soft bread soaked in milk. And all the while the shepherd stayed near, only stepping back when someone approached too close. The bond between them was unmistakable. It was as if he had taken an oath to guard them until they could fend for themselves. Later, a local animal aid volunteer arrived with supplies and confirmed the puppies were dehydrated but otherwise without major injury. Their survival, she said, was nothing short of miraculous given the heat of the past days and the lack of food or shelter. And she had no doubt that without the shepherd's constant digging, pressing his body over the spot to keep them warm at night, and his refusal to leave, they would not have made it through another day. Word spread quickly through the village and beyond. And by evening, strangers from nearby towns arrived to see the unlikely family, some bringing food, others just wanting to witness the dog whose determination had saved 3 lives. Raghav, who had begun the day with no thought beyond his usual chores, found himself making a quiet promise that none of them, neither the shepherd nor the puppies, would ever have to face danger or abandonment again. And so, when the sun dipped low and the crowd thinned, he led them to his modest home, prepared a warm bed from old quilts, and watched as the shepherd settled down with the puppies nestled against his chest, their tiny breaths rising and falling in unison. It was a scene of such peace after the chaos of the morning that Raghav felt a lump rise in his throat, because in that moment he understood something simple yet profound, that love and loyalty are not bound by blood, that sometimes the deepest bonds are forged not by family but by choice, and that even in a world where cruelty exists, there will always be those who will dig with their last ounce of strength to protect the innocent. And as night fell over the quiet village, the sound of gentle breathing filled the small room, the shepherd's eyes closing at last, not because his job was done, but because, for the first time in days, he knew the ones he had fought for were safe.